Okay, this is December 31st, 2015. Mama or Joan Stuckey is 92, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, she was telling us about when she lived on the farm in Tarrant County where she grew up near Everman, Texas, and how they owned a couple hundred acres and grew some crops and had some cattle, and they had some African American families that lived on the property. And I was just asking her to talk about that a little bit.
Okay. When the big Scott house was built, the workers, many of the workers were of black denomination. And as a result, they had to have a place to stay. So they built the largest of the three houses that was on that land. And the workers stayed in the little houses that they had built.
Oh, they built them themselves.
Yeah.
And who
That
bought
was
those?
that was the first J.J. Scott's idea was for them to be the laborers of building and have them on the property. So he had to have a place for
And
them.
who paid for the materials?
Well, he did.
I see.
Yeah. He was a money maker. He did real well. He was county commissioner of Precinct 1.
And about what time period would that have been when they built those houses?
Well, the house I grew up in was built right after the Civil War.
But I mean the black people who built houses, when would that have been?
Well, that would have been early, let's see, 1820.
No. If the main house was built during the Civil War, that'd be the 1860s.
60s, that's right. Okay, so this would come after. No, they built that first house for the workers to live in.
I'm just asking about what time would that?
Yeah,
was
that's
that
what
after
I'm
after you were born?
Oh no, honey. They been there since shortly after the main house was
Okay.
built.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, those houses were there forever, and some mesquite trees had really grown up around them, and it was, the people were thrilled to death to have their own house.
Well, what were those houses still standing when you were growing up?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
because you knew some of the kids.
Yeah,
So when would they have been torn down?
I have no idea. Some of them. Well, wait a minute. The smaller one, which was the farthest up on that creek level, I think Daddy tore that down. It had fallen down, become unruly in times, and Dad took that one down. So that left the two big ones. They were there for a long time.
Uh-huh.
And when they divided, Phil and Grandmother Scott got together and divided up the land. Aunt Mabel got that side of the pasture with those two houses on it. And I think she sold both, well, no, she sold both of them, and for the money. She sold the wood.
Oh.
Now, during the war, over across the highway from the house where I grew up was a big barn. A big barn. The top floor held hay, bales of hay.
You talking about your farm?
Uh-huh.
Well, that wasn't across the highway.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Across the highway. What highway?
Well, here comes the road.
The road, that wasn't a highway, that was a road.
That was the highway to Waco, Texas. That was 81 that went all the way down south.
The road that went around your house?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I didn't know you ever referred to that as the highway.
Well,
I thought you meant the interstate, which
interstate, which that came much later.
I see.
That came, I don't know what the year, but much later.
Uh-huh.
During the Depression, it just drove mother just couldn't stand it. Families would be walking, going to somewhere.
Uh-huh.
And when they got to, the word gets around, and when they got to our house, here they came down that driveway by the windmill, came up to the house.
Huh.
And, do you have anything? My kids haven't eaten in 2 days. Do you have any scraps we can have? Well, mother, of course, real quick cooked and fixed and fed them. And,
Wow.
and we did that to more than one family.
Were they going north or south from
They
there?
were going south. That woman and man and those 3 kids were going south. Walking. Well,
I never knew that was a main road there that went
it was
considered a
south.
highway. I thought that
It
was.
was Hemphill Street up in Fort Worth. Hemphill, which they closed off during the war because they put the supply house that built it at the end of Hemphill. Then they had to come up here to Berry Street and go out and make a jog under the railroad and hook up to 81. But it was Hemphill Street that it came off of. But anyway, let me do this one thing about the houses and the families that lived there. My dad, very unusual gentleman, was very picky that the people had food. Now, if you go to work, you got to eat. And Dad always would tell Mother, now pick up this or pick up that at the grocery store. And then Mother would say something like, I can barely feed my own family, and now I got to feed all of them. But she moaned and groaned, but they did it. And the families, they didn't want for anything. Oh, they wanted, but they didn't lack the living qualities of everybody else had. But they had, I'll never forget one night, I heard this voice calling, Mr. J.J., Mr. J.J. Well, I looked out. It was moonlight night, and standing out by the tree was one of the black men. And, of course, Dad got up, walked out on the porch, and he said, I've got a sick child. He said, can you come see what you can do for him? So Dad gets dressed, they go down, and I've forgotten what was the problem with that child. He was a little rascal. And here came Daddy back with the man and the baby and the little boy. He took them to a hospital in Fort Worth. They knew Dad was going to help them, and knew if they got help or got to a doctor, it had to come through Dad or somebody. Of course, they were on Dad's property, so that's what they did. But anyway, I wanted to tell you about the barn. Here was the windmill, here was our driveway, and right across from our driveway was another driveway that went into a great big barn.
Well, I remember the barn. I grew up. If you're talking about the one I knew.
No,
Oh, there's a different barn.
this was a different one. A great big, it was a horse barn. It had stalls in it and feed troughs.
I never heard of that. And that was on the other side of the road from your house?
Uh-huh.
You never told me about that.
And the concrete, there was a great big concrete watering tank. And that's because it was so close to the windmill, and they piped the water over there for the horses. But the top, it was a hard, what stipulated the difference in that barn and the barn over on next to the house. The one next to the house had the two big granaries, the two huge bins where they kept the, after harvest, they filled the seed and everything in those two big silo type things. But the horse barn across the street, as I said, had stalls where a horse would walk in, and there was a tray, and the food, the hay or what, the oats or whatever you're going to give them was right there. And then the attic, at the upper level of that barn, like an attic, they stored hay mostly.
Mm-hmm.
It kept it dry, and that had big doors on each end of it. And Dad was very insistent that those doors, as long as that hay was up there, those doors to be open so they wouldn't combust, burn. But we as the kids, we could hardly wait for the men to put the bales of hay up in that upper level, because in scooting the bale of hay along, that floor was the best floor for dancing that you could imagine. It was slick. You had to watch your walking, or down you would go. But we loved it up there. Oh, we built forts. We had everything going on. Getting Doug and Wilbur up there on those things was a problem. They didn't go up too well.
Well, how did you get up there? Wasn't there a ladder?
Yeah, there was a ladder. It was over where the horse stalls were, and you had to, just like the out there in that garage. Garage type ladder. Only this was nailed to the wall. But anyway, it was a wonderful way to spend a very hot Texas afternoon. Be up there in that upper level, and the wind blowing through there, stretched out on a bale of hay. Oh my gosh, you think you just passed on to heaven right then and there.
I never heard you talk about that barn before.
Oh yeah, isn't that something?
Yeah.
Well,
I don't remember ever seeing any pictures of it either.
I'm not too sure. I know we've got some. I'll find those. But anyway, when I think about that big old barn, and the creek ran right beside it, down the hill rather, and I could just hear, stretched out on one of those big old bales of hay, and I could hear the water running down. Oh, that sounded so good.
I bet.
Mercy, mercy.
So back to the families that lived over there on that side. You said you knew them as a kid growing up, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There were 3 girls, but basically the 2 older ones, the little one was not with us a lot. Now, if Mama was going to be doing something, the 2 older girls had to look after the little one. But Phil and I and the 2 girls, and then they had a brother, T-Bone, and we all played together most of the time down under that bridge there on the road.
Do you remember what the girls' names were?
Oh no. If I had our that book, and I think I don't know exactly where it is, wedding book, I have a lot of names in it, and theirs might be there, but
Uh-huh.
I don't know. But anyway, they were our playmates.
Mhm.
Now, Billy, cousin Billy, and cousin Mary, whenever they came, they'd come. Maybe if it had rained and the water was running in the creek, you can bet your bottom dollar that Phil and I were down there wading in that water.
Uh-huh.
Well, the minute Billy and her sister Mary arrived, here they came. You know, where Phil? Where's Joy and Phil? Where? And the mother said, "Oh, down at the creek." Oh, and that Bill just died 10,000 deaths. Oh, here came Mary and Billy, and they put their feet in, take their shoes and socks off, and they'd hold their skirts. Oh, Lord, I tell you.
Was there anything in the creek? Were there crawdads or anything?
Oh, yes, we had crawdads,
Uh-huh.
and they'd build little mounds up, and Mother'd give us pieces of bacon on a string.
Uh-huh.
You could drop that then, and their claws would hit that bacon and pull them up. Oh, Lordy, gosh. All the fun things that we did have. And also that was cool there underneath all the willows that grew along that creek. Now, the WPA
Works Project Administration.
yeah, that Roosevelt really started the building of cross-country highways.
Uh-huh.
And they built that big concrete bridge there at our house.
Hmm.
And underneath it, that was the best place to play down there with the trees. And sometimes there'd be water, sometimes there wouldn't be water. But we had more time spent under the bridge, and we'd haul big rocks, no telling where we got them, and we'd make what we call a house,
Uh-huh.
shape out a house. So here we had all that worked this out so well. This is the dining room, that's the kitchen, and blah, blah, blah. Well, I got a little bit bored. Just a smidgen bit bored with the whole thing. So I decided I'd just walk across that bridge on the railing going across.
Uh-oh.
And, Phil wouldn't do anything. He wouldn't say, if he had a mouthful. But anyway, I just decided that's it. I can do that. So I get up on that banister. Not a banister,
Uh-huh.
but that part of the bridge. And I was just going along so nice and easy. And all at once, I wasn't up there anymore. I was down below. I fell, and I landed on one of our house rocks.
Oh, God.
And, of course, it knocked me out, of course. And Phil stayed there with me till I came to, I guess. Yes, he didn't know what to do or what he should do, but soon as I got live again, he ran and got Mother. And here came Mother. She could see I was breathing, and of course my head was all bumped up and big and bleeding and everything. And I'll never forget Mother saying, "You get yourself in some of the worst conditions I've ever seen." She was so put out at me.
I've never heard that story either.
So Mother came down to the bridge, and
Go ahead.
real quick, I'm sure, I went to the house with her, and she cleaned me up and put I don't know what she put on it, but here I had this big knot. Oh, that's right. When my dad got home that night from work, he called Dr. McPherson down at Burleson, and they took me down there for him to look at my head.
Uh-huh.
Of course, he didn't have X-ray, didn't have diddly squat. So he just, that's right, I remember. He told Dad, he said, "Why don't you wake the youngster 2 or 3 times during the night?"
The youngster.
The youngster, 2 or 3 times. Oh, shoot.
Make sure she's not dead, or
Yeah, be sure she hadn't caught off. Now, our house was after Phil and I were in school at Everman, which would be the early grades. The friends that we made for the first time, some of them we had met either at church or some other occasion, but we ended up, Phil had a group of fellows that he liked, and we both had good playmates as such, and they always wanted to come to our house. Mother always had cookies or cupcakes or something, and those boys would come right out of school
uh-huh.
and get if Mother was one coming to get us if we didn't ride the bus, and they'd get in that car and they'd hit that table in the kitchen. They were thrilled.
Oh, so the goodie bar concept extended back
yes,
to her.
right. Oh, yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So as a mother said, she said, "I'll turn into a cupcake someday," but she made cupcakes, and sometimes they wouldn't have icing on them. She wouldn't have had time to ice them. Didn't bother.
Just going back to finish up about the Black families, you were saying yesterday that they had come to your wedding, at least the girls did.
Oh, yeah.
But they came as servers rather than guests because that's what they wanted to do. You said.
That's what they want, of course, and that did not enter my mind.
Uh-huh.
I didn't want. I in speaking to them, I didn't want to make them feel like I was trying to use them for anything. And here when they came, oh boy, they look hot dog. They look real good in their white uniforms, and that's what a lot of the servers in a fancy restaurant would wear.
Uh-huh.
And the brother, she said they had a white jacket for T-Bone, and he wouldn't wear it. So I learned afterwards that T-Bone stayed out in the yard. He was watching everything, and
oh my God.
One of the sisters said, she said, "Oh, I took him some cake and punch." I said, "Well, take him some more." No, he's got plenty. But anyway, it was something that they wanted to come after all the years.
Yeah.
And
what I can't imagine is that it wasn't a huge plot of land that you were farming, and I don't understand how there was enough money made on that farm to cover the costs of having full-time workers living there. You know?
Well, of course, the workers, I don't know how Dad paid them.
Uh-huh. Did they have some work elsewhere as well?
Well, if Dad didn't have anything for them to do, if Horace Mitchell needed them, they'd go there. Or Earl Mitchell wanted them for something, they'd go. So they did work out. But
and did they pay rent to use the house?
No. So see, that kept them free from cost and expense.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
And Dad furnished all the wood and everything for the stove, and he furnished them the
No, you don't have to lean. That's
stuff for lamps.
Uh-huh.
Oh, he saw to them real well.
Yeah, I just don't see how the numbers added up for that, but that was a different time.
Oh yeah, it really was, Scott. And values were different, and well, not different, but there was a limitation to what you would have or wanted or could have. Now,
Well, I'm just saying they must have been very inexpensive labor to be able to afford them.
well, probably was,
Uh-huh.
but the families were thrilled to death to have their own house.
Right,
They
right.
were just beside
Did
themselves.
they have electricity in there?
No, not till we had it.
Uh-huh.
And then Dad got the Texas Power and Light to string a power line from the barn, from that horse barn, down to that first big house. And they fed him off that house lights
Uh-huh.
to the other
And what
house.
year would that have been?
That would have been, let's see, that would have been before the Depression. I'd been about, let's see, I would be about 10, 12.
Okay.
Uh,
And that's when you got electricity at your house? When
we got electricity at our house in the 30s.
Well, you would have been 10 in 1933, so.
Oh, well, yeah, then that would be about right.
Uh-huh.
But, I tell you, when we were going to get electricity, my Aunt Mabel and my Aunt Uta, they made trips to our house, hauling over for us to have different electric pieces of stuff you use, like,
Appliances.
well, electric pot or something for the kitchen.
Uh-huh.
But
So they already had electricity where they were.
in Dallas, they were
Oh.
over here in Dallas.
I see.
Yeah, and an old toaster, and I can remember Uncle Jim, who belonged to Aunt Uta, when he saw her take that out of that bag, and we were all in the kitchen, and she set that toaster down, and Uncle Jim said, "Well, where have you had that hidden? I like that toaster." And you said, "Well, you can like it, but we're not using it." In other words, we got everything they didn't want.
Uh-huh.
But oh,
Well, that must have been a big exciting time to get
Oh.
electricity.
Well, it was a big, exciting time. And of course, the house had to be wired, and the inspector from the light company had came and inspected and went around with Daddy when he explained how they had.
Who wired it? The light company or your dad?
Dad, and he had somebody helping him.
Wonder how he knew how to do that.
Well, just like you look at a book or something
Uh-huh.
and find it. But no, Dad did, and Mother and I went to look for lamps
Mm-hmm.
to hang in the living room and the kitchen. What did we do for not the kitchen, the living room, the dining room? But how did we do the kitchen? Oh, yeah, over there by the stove. It was there.
Hold on.
Oh,
And then-
yeah.
Did you get a
the
refrigerator at that point?
Oh, yeah, because we just had the ice box. And Mr. Holt was the ice man, and he would come real hot weather. He'd load up that ice and make about 3 runs around his route that he always delivered his
So
ice.
how often would he come with ice?
about 3 times a week if it
Uh-huh.
were hot.
I see.
And you had a cardboard, about a 12 by 12 sheet of cardboard, and on each side of that piece of cardboard were letters, 5 pounds, 10 pounds. He'd put the weight, and you'd put that in the window, and he'd know what to leave. If you weren't home, nothing was ever locked. If you weren't home, he'd just put the ice in.
And so it was like a refrigerator,
Yeah.
and the ice went in the top,
Uh-huh.
and that would keep the whole thing cold.
Down below, yeah.
How cold was it? As cold as a regular refrigerator?
Honey, I'm sure not.
Uh-huh.
But it was cold enough to prevent spoilage or whatever. I don't remember what all Mother had in there.
Uh-huh.
But
Now,
anyway,
did you have milk delivery to the house, or did you go to the store to buy milk?
no, we had a cow for a long time.
Uh-huh.
And then Daddy's work hours changed, which threw him late getting in. Well, that cow had to be milked. And my mother says to my dad, if you think I'm going to milk that cow, just sit down and have another thought, because I am not going to milk that cow. So Phil ended up, I said, that goes for me too.
Well, she would pluck chickens and cut off their heads.
Oh, yeah.
Why was milking the cow any bit different?
Oh, I don't, just this, I don't know why she did. She did just put that on a label of being.
Now, when he would milk the cow, how did that work out? Would he milk it into a bucket and then
Oh, yeah.
bring it into the kitchen and
Yep.
put it in pour it in a
Yep.
bottle, or?
He would, have your bucket. You sit on a stool and have your bucket, and ding, 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 ding. You milk the cow till the cow's bag is real soft
Uh-huh.
and empty. And then you bring the milk to the house, and let's see. Mother, what did she do?
Did she steam it or anything?
Yeah, I was going to say, if I recall, she, I wouldn't be qualified as pasteurized, but it would be like cleaning, be sure it's clean.
But how would she do that?
Well, she had a big piece of a mesh, a real lightweight mesh
Uh-huh.
that was strung over this one particular picture type
Uh-huh. So
that
she'd
she
strain
kept.
it.
Yeah, so she strained it to be sure there were hunks of this or hunk of that or whatever. But that was all that was done. So
So she didn't heat it up.
no. But all my life I drank milk straight from the cow.
Well, that's raw milk.
Yeah,
That's what some people drink now, but they get in. Some states don't allow it
I was
because
gonna
of
say,
fear of disease.
yeah.
But you drank raw milk.
But
So you must have gotten the cream would rise up to the top.
it comes to the top.
And what would you do with that?
Well, Mother had her specialties to use the cream, and then see some part of that milk she would churn and make butter,
Uh-huh.
and we'd have butter. Always had the best tasting butter. But living in those days, during the Depression, we often, in hindsight, think we didn't really dwell on it being a real handicap because everybody was in it.
Mm-hmm.
And you weren't being put up on, or he's got it and I don't have it, and all this meant.
Well, it sounds like you guys were relatively well off because
Oh,
you
yeah.
had land and
Yeah,
you had
that's
a
right.
cow and
The Now, Scots were well versed in making money and doing things for the community. James Martin strung the first telephone wire on a fence post. Went that way. Ms. Owens, Mary Elizabeth's grandfather, and J.J. Scott strung the line up. 9 people on that used that.
Now, was that before you were born that they got the line up? Or
Yeah.
So you had telephone service
We had telephone service.
before you had electricity?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
before, oh yeah. And, yeah, it was funny. But as I was going to say, our friends, Phil's friends and my friends, loved to come to our house because there was always something to do. We'd all go down across the street to the horse barn and play some kind of games up there, and we get upstairs, all this huge area, slick floor, clean,
Uh-huh.
cool, and as Mother used to say, and I knew where you were,
Uh-huh.
and it was a good thing. Then one afternoon, and I don't want to repeat on something I've said before, but I don't think I've said
Oh, yeah,
this.
it's all right.
Everybody had come. It was after school, and we'd had treats in the kitchen, and so we were all going to play something outside. There was I don't remember how many, but several kiddos were there visiting with us. Had come home after school, and decided we'd play hide and seek. Well, that little game got going real well, and I thought, I didn't know where I'm going, and they'll never find me. So I go down to the barn that's on the same side of the street as the house. There are 2 big bins. In other words, 2 big rooms.
Oh, I know, yeah, the granaries.
And that was the granaries. And whenever the harvest came and the reaping was done, those bins would be filled up to the top with seeds. I thought, I'll get up there. Nobody would think to look up there. Nobody would climb that ladder. Okay, I go zooming up the ladder to the top, expecting just to put my feet down and be on top of the contents of the bin. There was nothing there. I fell all the way to the bottom of the bin. What had happened, Dad had sold the seed
Mm-hmm.
that they had came and they took the seed. They took a hoe and they put it through this hole down at the bottom of that bin and scraped out what was left in the floor of that bin. The hole was right there, turned up. And guess who landed on it?
I know, I remember this story. It always gives me the creeps.
Oh, God. I jumped down thinking I was just going to be almost stepping over on top of the stuff. And there was nothing there, so I fell all the way down and landed on this turned up hoe. Well,
We're just now running out of time again. Hold on. Okay, go ahead.
So. Of course, screaming and yelling and hollering and everything else.
Could you get out of the granary?
Yeah,
From the inside?
Phil came and I told him you can't jump down, blah blah. I don't remember how we got out, but we got out and got up to Phil helped me up to the house, and I learned something from that I'll never forget. My heel on my foot was sliced open.
Uh-huh.
It was two pieces. And in the crease of that piece were some of the seeds,
Uh-huh.
the wheat seeds in there. And Dr. Mack, when Dad ended up taking me down there, he said, well, he said, well, Jay, I don't think your daughter needs to grow your crops in her foot. Yeah, he just thought he was a comic from way back.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, Mother took a white little washpan type thing. She had to stop my foot from bleeding some way. She put a turnaround up on my leg, but she put in this little washpan type thing, like you get at the hospital, only this one was round. She put kerosene from the lamps, at the far lamps. I can just feel her. She grabbed my foot. She stuck my foot down there in that kerosene. The blood came up from my foot from the bottom of the kerosene in chunks. It just coagulated the blood.
And it stopped the bleeding?
Yeah.
Wonder how she knew
I
that.
have no idea. But since then, I had, one time something was said, I don't remember who Norm was with or what the thing came up about, and I mentioned that my mom had used the kerosene and to stem the flow of the blood. And this gentleman said, you bet, so we've done that too. It just, and you wonder what would be in it that would cause that.
Who knows? Some chemical reaction. I had never heard that part of the story before.
Yeah.
So did you get sewed up quite a bit?
No, I didn't yet. Wait, I gotta finish getting to the house. Phil and I finally got me out of the bin down at the barn, and coming across the cow lot down there, Phil stepped on a nail.
Oh, crap. That's right. I remember that, too.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, he had a nail. Stepped on a nail where horses and cows were, which is probably the most dangerous place you could be for a puncture wound. So mother got all the kids delivered home. And of course mother wouldn't leave Phil and I by ourselves at the house. So we had to ride with her while she was taking all the kids home. But when Dad came in, then he said, well, looking at my ankle, my foot, he said, let's let Dr. Mack see what he wants to do, whether he wants to sew it up or what. And he says to Phil, and I want him to look at your nail hole that you have that you stepped on. Oh no, Phil wasn't going to go with us, but he did. Okay, I go in, hop, skip, and jump, put in, and Dr. Mack looks at my foot, and he cleans on it and gets some of the wheat. And that's when he said, you don't want your wheat growing out of your daughter's foot. And then Dad says, and I'm sitting up on his table, his examination table, and he's working on my foot. And then Dad told him about Phil stepping on a nail. Dr. McPherson was a big man. He stood straight up, and with one arm he went around me and set me over off that table, told Phil to get over there. Well, he worked on Phil's foot to be sure it was clean, because that was a perfect place for tetanus.
Uh-huh.
So, and then Phil got real mad at me. He said, "You didn't get anything done to you," and he dug on my foot. And oh, he was so upset.
Or did your foot get sewed up or not?
Didn't sew it up. He said, "Well," he said, "you got some clean rags here for a bandage," and he said, "Just keep it tight and let it heal itself."
Uh-huh. Now, was this before they had tetanus shots?
Yeah.
They did.
Oh yeah.
They didn't have tetanus shots.
Uh-uh.
Uh-huh.
Not till, let's see, we got tetanus shots. No, I was up in high school. No, I was up middle school. Had to be middle school. Why did I get one? But anyway, that would be something, a tetanus shot to cancel the chances that you had in lockjaw
Uh-huh.
from stepping on something that was contaminated.
Right.
And a horse barn was the number one place that you had problems with.
Now, did you ever see snakes out there in the pasture?
Yes.
Because you hear about rattlesnakes in Texas, but did you?
Yes, we did. There were once in a great while we'd see what Dad called a chicken snake. You know, it got going. Let's see.
Oh, I was asking you about snakes. That's what it was.
Snakes. That's right. As long as you've got, well, not necessarily, but if you have dogs or cats or any type of domestic animal on your place, your snakes are going to be few and far between, because a dog will attack a snake just for the heck of it.
Uh-huh.
He's not going to eat it, doesn't want to eat it, wouldn't eat it if you cut it up and cut it up and handed it to him. Now the cat might come closer to eating part of a snake, but it was never a problem for us. Now, when we lived, I'm glad you mentioned the snakes, because this makes me think. I lived at home and worked in Fort Worth, so I had to go into work. And our mother would take me up to the bus station, and I'd catch the bus and go on down to where I was working. And one morning I went out, and I was going to drive the car because Mother didn't need it, and I parked it at Mr. Wright's service station on Hemphill, and I took the bus downtown because I didn't want to pay parking. So anyway, as I'm walking out the north door at the house, curled up by the big rock fence that Daddy and Phil and all of them built, was this big, thick rattlesnake. And his rattles were all just kind of going back and forth and back. He's just enjoying the morning sun and lying there. So I called Mother and I said, "Keep an eye on this. I'm coming to get Dad's gun. I want to shoot and kill this rattlesnake." Mother didn't say anything. I went in, got the gun, came back, and fired it at that rattler, and the rattler just kind of shook a little bit. Didn't move a muscle otherwise.
Was it a shotgun or
a handgun?
A handgun? You were shooting a pistol at it?
Yeah. Daddy shoots his .45 Colt.
I must have had quite a kick to it.
Oh, it did. But we had fired his guns before, so But anyway, I fired 2 shots. I fired at one, and he just kind of twitched. And I told Mother, I said, "Well, I'm going to shoot him again." And she said, "Are you hitting him?" I said, "Yes." The bullet's going right into his middle. Well, same thing, the second shot that I fired at that damn snake. In the meantime, Mother goes back into the house, out the breezeway to the garage, gets a hoe, a chopping hoe, and comes back where that snake is, and she said, "Stop wasting your dad's ammunition." And she took that hoe and she whacked that snake smack dab in two.
Well, did she cut the head off?
Oh yeah, she did. She did it afterwards, yes, but she, that poor snake never knew what hit him. The mother said, wasted that ammunition on that snake.
Wow.
Oh, God.
That's pretty wild.
I tell you for sure. You just never know. You know,
Now, when were those pecan trees planted? Was that way back when, or?
well, during my lifetime,
Uh-huh.
because Aunt Lode's mother's sister that lived at Waxahachie brought these little trees up to the farm, and I not recall where she got them, but anyway, they planted them, and that's where those pecans
Was that before or after that wall was put in?
was before.
Uh-huh.
And oh yeah, those trees were going long before that wall got built.
And what was the purpose of that wall?
Well, we had also, along with getting the electricity, it was allowed to have like a tank full of gas.
Oh, okay.
And the company furnished the great big tank, and we had butane. So then gas pipes had to be put in the house and run into each bedroom wherever you wanted to put a stove. And the butane tank, we had to buy a butane for that, and the truck would come and deliver. And as I recall, there was a point on that big dial. If the point was ever got to a certain number, he knew to put more. That Dad would want him to put more gas in that tank.
Mm-hmm.
The wall was built. Dad said, "We got to make some kind of protection for that big tank of gas."
Uh-huh. So
So
nobody would drive into it.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
because everybody was used to just driving up to wherever they wanted to. So they built the wall, and then they poured the concrete walkway from the living room. But the wall was really protection for the gas tank.
So, did you have a separate little gas heater in each room?
Uh-huh.
One of those little
Uh-huh.
ceramic
It
things?
just barely kept it warm.
Now, what did you do to heat the house before you had the gas in there?
Nothing. You didn't stay in a cold room. You stayed in the room where the fireplace was roaring like crazy, or the great big stove that was in the kitchen.
Uh-huh.
Now there was no heat of any kind in the bedrooms. They didn't have it. Not until we got electricity. Then when we got the electricity, we had let's see, there's one in Mother and Dad's room. I think we had maybe 2 units just they weren't very big, but they took the chill off the room.
Those were gas
Uh-huh.
units.
Yeah. Mhm.
But they weren't dependent on electricity, were they? Those
No. But anyway.
Because I think when I was living on that farmhouse in Kansas, it had one of those same kind of units in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And it burned propane gas.
And you'll burn propane? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
A butane has no odor.
Propane doesn't either. But.
Oh, it doesn't? Well, I remember there was a big to-do over putting something in the butane to give it an odor.
Right.
And I don't know whether butane's ever used anywhere for
it might be. I don't know. I hear about propane being used a lot. But.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Everything just went. What else took place? Oh, up on the windmill. I told you about that.
What was the windmill story? Did you fall off of that too?
No. Phil and I were playing down there.
Your dad got injured on the windmill. I remember that story. Is that what you were going to talk about?
He did what?
He got injured fixing the windmill.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what you were going to talk about?
No.
What was the other windmill
Well,
story?
what I was going to tell, Phil and I were playing down there because anytime there was a shade of any size that we could do whatever we wanted to do, we'd play there. Well, the sun was so that there was all shady area under that water tank. So we were playing down there and everything. And there was a hydrant there, and we'd drink water and blah, blah, blah. And Dad always said, be sure to cut that hydrant off real tight if you use it. And don't climb this ladder and go to the top because you'll fall off and break your neck. I can just hear him saying it. So we're down there, Phil and I are down there playing. And I just decided I'd go up that ladder. He'd get in a panic. Oh, no, he'd say, Dad told us not to do that. Don't you go up there, don't you? Well, that convinced me completely I was going up the damn ladder. So up I go, and, I told Phil, I said, I can see everywhere all the way around. And I walked, and there's a extended planks where you walked if you had to work on something out there. So I walked all the way around, and I was just feeling so good. And all at once, afterwards I thought I must have just looked down for the first time, really looked down to realize how tall up I was. Then I went into orbit. Oh, I started screaming and hollering.
Oh, jeez.
Phil went running to the house. And afterwards, Mother said, oh, I thought he had killed you. But anyway, he runs to the house to get Mother, and here comes Mother, coattail flying, and I'm sitting up on the top of that windmill, crying, sobbing away. And my mother very calmly hollers up at me and says, stop that crying. Just like that. Well, I thought maybe I better stop, so I stopped. And she said, now, listen to me. And she said, you got yourself up there, you can get yourself down. She said, nobody's coming up to get you. There's nobody that wants to climb up there.
That's it. Go ahead.
But anyway, then she turns around, walks back to the house, and takes Phil with her.
Oh, my God.
she was leaving me. I had gotten myself in that pickle. By gosh, you can get yourself out of it. Turned around, walked off.
Wow.
And I brought myself down. I thought, if I'm going to get out of here, I got to do it myself. I don't know what further I thought I was going to get any help.
Did you get in trouble that night when your dad got
No,
home?
oh no. That reminds me. Phil said something about afterwards. We were out there on the porch, and Phil said, "You just wait till after supper." And I said, "What's going to happen after supper?" "Dad's going to spank you." And I thought, oh gosh, here we go again. I'm getting in trouble for climbing the dadgum windmill, but he didn't. He just said, "Now, sis, you knew you weren't supposed to do that." You know, he probably told Mother, well, thank goodness she got herself down.
Yeah. He probably would have gone up there if he had been home.
Oh, yeah, he would have.
Yeah.
And said, or he said, "Give me your hand, get you started back down." Yeah, he probably would have. Oh, I know he would have. Mother wasn't about to climb it there. She said, "You got yourself up there. You can get yourself down."
Jeez.
And then somebody wonders what in the world was I doing growing up. I said I was trying to stay out of trouble most of the time.
But back to the heating situation. So in the winter, before you got electricity, would you all just put out cots in the living room? And
Yes, we didn't have. Now we didn't do. I don't remember that we did that too often. But if it was a real cold snap, where if you left the doors open, like from that great big fireplace with the roaring fire and all this bit, some heat would go through the house. But
I'm trying to remember where the fireplace was.
It was on the west side in the big living room.
Was it on the outside wall?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah. It would have been. Well, it wouldn't have to be.
But
Did
had.
Did you use water bottles or anything? Hot water bottles?
Yeah. Well, did I? I don't know whether I mentioned it or not. The time that Aunt Uta and Aunt Maria and Daddy and I were sitting at the kitchen table.
And she knocked over the lamp or something?
Yeah, knocked over the kerosene lamp. Boy, I'm telling you, she flung that arm out. Of course, I was sitting over there minding my own business. And Dad, of course, was so afraid of fire. He just...
And the lamp was burning at the time?
Oh, yeah.
Did it start a fire?
Night. No, because Dad grabbed a towel and stuff and put it out. Stomped it out. And he started yelling, "Fire, fire, get outside." Well, Uncle Jim got Phil and Grandmother, and they didn't have Carolyn at that time. Got them outside, and then Dad got the lamp under control. So Uncle Jim and Aunt Uta and Grandmother Scott, they decided, well, they didn't want to stay here. So they went home back to Dallas that night. Good heavens to Betsy, the next morning, bright and early, Mother and Dad were having breakfast, and Dad was getting ready to go to work. And I looked out, and here they were. They were back, Aunt Uta and Uncle Jim. Jim told Dad, said, "Uta didn't sleep last night. She had to come over here and see if she could rectify what she did."
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Did it cause any damage to the house?
I don't remember. No, There might have been some burn scuffs or something on the floor, but there was nothing else to. She had a terrible temper. Whoo!
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that.
And no wonder Carolyn moved to California and stayed there. But anyway, well, let's see.
What about horses? I know that Papa bought a horse when we were kids for us, but did you all have horses?
Oh, yeah. We had some of those, like the horse that was named Maud had a great disposition for a horse. Matter of fact, Phil and I rode Maud first before we ever were allowed on a smaller horse, because Dad knew she wasn't going to do anything to try to get us off her back, but he always put both of us on at the same time. And but we had other horses too. Then we had Snip and Tony, which were. What did we do with Tony? We outgrew him. He was not a great big pony type, but now Snip was more of a regular horse thing. And Snip did not like Phil. Oh my gosh, if you wanted to get that horse upset, let Phil go down to the barn to catch him to put a bridle on. It'd take him forever before he'd get that bridle on. Yeah, pretty soon I could hear him calling me. So he'd come, I'd go down the barn and I knew what he wanted, because I had watched him try to put that bridle on. And he said, would you come put this bridle on this cotton picking horse or whatever he called it? I walked in the lot where the Snip was, and I started talking to him, and he turned around. I remember he kind of turned around and looked to be sure who was talking and to whom, and I walked over and I patted him on the chin. Oh, he was as calm and peaceful as he could be. So I put the bridle on him, and then I said, okay, kid, you're on your own. But that horse didn't like Phil. I asked Phil one time, did you ever whip this horse with a rope or something that he sure does not like you? And he said, no, but somebody that I resemble must have, because boy, he laid it low on being with Phil. Now, one time I was riding the horse, and I was going to meet my friend Betty Jo Chambers. She was going to be on her horse, and we were going to meet down at a crossroads, which meant when I came out of our driveway, crossed the bridge and went up to Mr. Black's lane, I'd go that way and run into where Betty Jo was going to be. That horse didn't want to go up that lane. Wasn't going. Sure wasn't going. He wouldn't go straight and he wouldn't go back. He just wasn't going that way. I tell you, of course, I never whipped a horse in my life, but boy, I did everything I knew to do to get that horse. He ended up backing down into the ditch with me hanging on. And then finally, he got tired of that, and finally he did get up Black's Lane, and away we went, and I was worn out. I remember that part. But Mr. Black, who lived up here at the top of the hill, next time he saw Dad, he said, say, how many girls you got down there? And Dad said, what do you mean? And he said, well, I watched one of your girls on a horse. And Dad said, well, that's the only girl I got. girl I have. And he said, I was about to turn the plow off and get on my horse and go down and help her. But he said, she finally got that horse going again. And he said, I sure thought she was going to have some help. But Snip didn't like Phil.
Uh-huh.
So,
And then by the time we came along, you didn't have any horses, I guess, out there. But he got Trixie for us, right? And then I know he rode Trixie himself.
oh yeah,
To herd cows or something.
Oh yeah.
I remember he used to swing a length of barbed wire on a post instead of a rope. I thought that was kind of harsh. I mean, would he hit the cows with that?
Oh no, I don't think so.
Do you remember that?
I don't remember him ever used it as a whip.
I remember him with a length of barbed wire on a
Post?
length of fence post, and he had that while he was riding the horse.
Well, he could have. I could see him. Movement like that will move a herd.
Well, if you swatted the rump with it, it would really move them, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, that's interesting.
You don't remember that?
Yeah, I remember the post. It looked kind of like a golf club, only it was thinner.
So you remember him having
Yeah.
that as kind of a whip?
Yes, and he did keep it. He'd hook it over the top of a fence post, and it'd hang on that fence post. He always knew where it was.
With a length of barbed wire on it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But I
Well, I always wondered what it was for, if it wasn't to swat a cow with.
yeah. Well, it was a swishing noise, I'm sure, part of it.
Uh-huh.
But I never did bother that. That was beyond my means. I'm getting anything done.
Be a pretty formidable weapon if you ever wanted to swat somebody with
Oh,
it.
boy. You'd be the top winner on that thing for sure. Well, it's interesting. Sitting here thinking about stuff at the house, and you talk about the heating situation, and my bedroom, I ended up as old as I became older. Dad let me have one of the bedrooms upstairs. And then eventually he ran the butane gas up there, and I had a little stove up there. They kept that. That room was all windows, and it was hard to keep any heat in it, but it did work well. But Mother's cat, Muggins, a little tabby, orange kind of color, and a sweet, sweet cat. Her friend Callie Johnson, her old cat, had a litter of kittens. So she called Mother and wanted her to take one of the kittens. Mother didn't want it, blah, blah, blah. Well, to make a long story short, Billy, cousin Billy, was visiting us at the time, and Mother said, you two kids, get in the car and go down there and get that cat that Callie wants me to have. So we went down, and we picked up this little kitty cat that Mother named Muggins. That cat, when he was little, rode in Mother's pocket on her apron. If that little kitty cat was around or she was going out to the chicken house, that cat, she'd put him in that big pocket. And he'd hang there, And he grew into a good-sized cat. Well, during the wintertime, he'd come up the vitex bush, get on the roof of the house, come over to the window by my bed, and just rattle that screen. He'd claw that screen, get a hold of it, bang, bang, bang. And I wake up, let the window up, he comes in, and he gets on my feet. He gets right down on my feet. Well, that felt good. He was kind of a good little warming spot. And Dad's one night, I don't know, the cat and I, what we had done, but Dad says, you and the cat must have had a disagreeing situation up there last night. I said, yeah, we did. But one night, oh, it was so hot, and I had all the windows open upstairs. And it was just very, not much air moving. It's like one of our still, calm Texas nights. And I was lying up there in bed, awake, and all at once I heard something, an odd sound, and I thought, what the hell was that? And about that time, over on my little dressing table that Aunt Lawrence had made for me, I heard some of the bottles I had, I heard them go clink, clink. I thought, something's on that dresser. I had no idea, didn't even think at the time. But I was thinking more of a 4-footed animal of some kind, a cat or whatever, had come in a possum.
Didn't you have screens on the windows?
No, because Phil and Daddy and Mr. What's-a-majigger, they were all painting the house.
Oh.
So the screens were off.
Oh.
Okay. Then, all at once, I heard flap, 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 and I realized something was flying around in my room. I yelled for Dad. Here he came. Oh, Lord, he came up, gun and all. And there was this big old owl had come in my come up to the house.
Did you have electric light to turn on?
And he came in one of my open windows, where he probably was accustomed to doing the same thing to the open door window type thing in the barns.
Uh-huh.
And this was just an open spot, and in he came. Mm-hmm. Well, Daddy grabbed the he grabbed the bedspread and threw it over the owl and caught the owl and hauled him out. And the next morning, Mother said, don't you let your father use your bedspread again to catch a bird. She was so put out because she's going to have to wash that thing.
Wow, that's interesting. Was it a big owl or?
Oh, big barn owl, big old barn owl. Of course, Dad was thrilled to death to have the barn owl down at the barn because they kept the rats and the mice from eating the grain.